Hey folks, it's Jim. One of the biggest questions I get repeatedly is finances and all that and how I do it and things of that nature. I lived by a disciplined lifestyle most of my life, and I was afforded that opportunity by being in the military to do it quite simply. And most people can do it. They are basic economic principles that have been around for a long, long time. The road to freedom has been the same now as it was 1,000 years ago. Anyway, preps and finance is what we're going to work on. The first rule is no debt, okay? And every once in a while have some debt, but it should be 0%, just like the rich, okay? And we can find those deals if our credit scores are good enough to get those deals, all right? And so that's rule number one. Rule number two is you should save a minimum of 25% of your income monthly. And that should end up in savings and investment, right? And if you choose to have children, you should be saving a minimum of 40% of your income before you decide to do that. Or you will wind up in a life of indentured servitude. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you haven't seen that or read that book, read it, know it, understand the principles of wealth that the rich all know. It does not come from working. It comes from learning how to master this portion. Stocks, bonds, Keynesian economics, along with Austrian theory, and the principles of cyclical economics. Okay, by mastering those skills, predicting bubbles and expansion periods, one can expand their savings to become very secure. Anyway. So these are all basic principles. It would take a whole hour to describe it in depth, but let's move on. The first thing that we need, and I've done these in descending order of importance, first thing we need is shelter. Why? Because that building affordable shelter, and I mean building yourself, right? First, while you're at home, paying off your student loans and all that stuff, buy a piece of land. And then sink a well. And then build a micro home, a mini home, or a camp on it, or a homestead. And now guess what? You've got rent-free living, don't you? Of course, you're going to have to pay taxes. You're going to have to keep it up. But then everybody else does too, who has any home, right? The difference is you won't have a mortgage. So that's the first thing to do. Start our lives out with affordable housing instead of jumping into the indentured servitude lifestyle that everyone seems to think is fun for some reason, when in reality they wind up on antidepressants. The other thing about building your own home is it will increase in value. It is definitely tradable, and it will be transferable to our children, right? So those are the things that this is rule number one, in my opinion. Okay, affordable housing. It should never exceed 30% of your income. Even if you're renting, you shouldn't be spending over 30% of your income for rent. If you are, either make more money or move. That's pretty much reality. And most of this applies to single young people or retirees like myself, or 50% of us are single. This is where this comes in. We're dumped the McMansions, if you will, and other things, and we're living a simpler lifestyle and so forth. And there's a lot of people living the van lifestyle, riding all over the country. They have a little place to go back to when they get tired of the road, but they're traveling all over the place. They're doing it affordably, and they're having wonderful adventures and meeting up with a whole lot of neat people doing the same thing. You get to see a whole lot of the world, or the country, right? So then the next thing is food or bug out supplies, right? And that I put this together because this is all your bug out bag, your get home bag, your bug out, all of your bug out get up, whether that be tents or camper or whatever that might be, right? And food, for food, if we do food right, buying in bulk, Mormons have a wonderful program, and they teach it very well, of how to buy bulk food that you use on a regular basis, and how to save yourself a lot of money, and think of food as a business on an annual rotation. And then you're also prepared at the same time for long-term food storage, aren't you? But at the same time, you're saving money in your daily life, your weekly and monthly life, by buying in bulk you're saving a lot of money, aren't you? For instance, toilet paper. You buy a 4-pack, you pay so much. You buy a 32-pack, you're paying 30 or 40% less, aren't you? Food is the same way. The more you buy, the bigger the bag, the better off you're going to be cost-wise, and at the same time you are prepared. Okay? So food is something that can definitely be a tradable commodity. It usually goes up in value from year to year, right? And so if we're rotating food, we're saving money, and it is transferable to our children, right? Okay, so we don't go wrong by having food and all that stuff. Food or shelter, right? Okay, the next thing is growing food. This definitely saves us money and definitely leads to a healthier lifestyle, doesn't it? And it will also help us save more and more to move from 25% to 40%, okay? And as our incomes grow and we master better skills of saving money, we continue to move closer to this 40% goal, don't we? And so you learn to grow food. Tractor is the only thing I think maybe a homesteader or prepper should go in debt on, someone who has a home or a piece of land or whatever, because the tractor will help you build the home, it will help you maintain the property, it will help you do all kinds of jobs around, but also something else. Say we have a grid down scenario and get it at 0% interest too, those sales are every year. Okay, say we have grid down, SHTF, governmental collapse, the whole bit, and we're all on our own and it's the new world, right? Well, the tractor, if I till somebody's field and I charge them to do that, to prep their garden, I can charge them 10% of their total crop yield, can't I? And this, in the end, will make me a very wealthy person, won't it? If I trade food for my labor of my tractor, which I can convert to biodiesel because it's diesel, right? So it's going to save money on our homestead or our lifestyle. It is going to be a transferable, tradable commodity and make me more valuable as a person in my community. And it is transferable to my children. My tractor that I bought 8 years ago is now worth more than I paid for it 8 years ago. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so that's just another thing. But growing food leads to healthier food choices, and it leads to healthier food in general if you have good soil, right? And you're not using pesticides and all that stuff. And it just saves a lot of money, right? And it's definitely a tradable commodity, definitely transferable to our children, and transferring the knowledge to our children is, wow, isn't that great? And a family that grows food together is very close usually too. Guns, ammo, and protection, that's next on the item list of importance for preppers, and I believe for our financial lives too, if you're saving more than your 25% and you can afford to invest in this stuff, then I have 5 extra handguns with 500 rounds apiece for each one that I never use and are brand new. Why? Because when SHTF WROL goes down, or we have total economic collapse and we have a governmental failure and the whole bit, what's going to be important? Food, water, shelter, and protection are going to be more important and valuable than gold and silver. That's just reality. So having those extra handguns is going to be more valuable than gold and silver if the time should ever come, isn't it? And being able to give somebody 500 rounds with it, what will they trade for that? You see? And so having these things also, when I bought them, they were less expensive than they are now, and they're very tradable, and it's transferable wealth to my children, or in my case, my child. Okay, so all of this stuff, as you can see, has a theme. Okay, it goes up in value, it's tradable, and it's transferable to our children. So nothing is wasted, is it? And the skills are transferable to our children, and the skills make us more useful in our new society should the whole world come to an end and we have to start over, right? Okay, so, and also if you're into shooting, by buying loading equipment and loading supplies, you're going to save yourself a lot of money every year, right? By loading your own ammo, but also highly tradable, highly sought after commodity in SHTF WRL situation, and the products are definitely transferable to your children should you pass away, and they will probably be just as valuable as when you bought them, if not more, because the brass and everything else will go up in value as time goes on. Okay, next, alternative energy. Alternative energy to me is a no-brainer. It pays for itself. Anytime we get an asset that pays for itself, we should go for it. But also alternative energy, if you install it yourself, is very cost effective and pays dividends for life. My system cost me $5,500. It pays me $50 to $75 a month, hence a 7.5 year payback time. Also, it will be a highly tradable commodity should we hit WROL or SHTF situation where, you know, the grid's gone and all that stuff and governmental collapse. Also, the skills of knowing how to install and maintain alternative energy will be highly transferable and tradable, and the skills and knowledge will be transferable to our children as well, as long as, and also the products themselves, right? Okay, so you see the theme here: tradable, raises in value, and transferable to our children should we pass away. The next thing is, and saves us money throughout our lives as we live, okay? That's what everything in this thing has in common, and that's why I'm doing it this way. Okay, cash, 3 to 6 months of expenses for cash on hand. That should be easy to achieve if you're doing this, and you know, most financial planners recommend that. And that's for an emergency situation, or if you should have to get out of Dodge while currency is still good, right? And cash is definitely tradable, and it is transferable to our children. Anybody can tell you in Katrina, having some cash and getting out of Dodge was kind of important, okay? So, or any situation like that. Having a little cash is very important. And so then we move on from there, and it's also tradable, transferable to our children. I covered that. Gold and silver. The reason why gold and silver is way down here, and don't be offended if you're a gold and silver stacker, is that if we're truly in a grid down, WROL, governmental collapse situation, gold and silver is not going to have much value. What is going to have value is shelter, water, food, and protection. That's what is going to have the most value. Hence the 5 guns I would rather have than the gold, okay? And most financial planners will recommend 10% of your portfolio should be in precious metals. That's a hedge of protection against stocks and bonds and etc. And currency collapses and things of that nature. So gold, while it is important, gold and silver, I don't put it high on the list, because in a true prepper situation where all is lost and the governments have collapsed, gold and silver isn't going to have much value. Food and a tractor will, and solar energy will, and shelter will, and water will, and protection will. All of those things will have a lot more value than gold or silver in a true economic or worldwide collapse where the governments are lost. But it's prudent to have this for your overall financial well-being, okay? And I don't mean possessing it in your home. That's dangerous. But 10% of your portfolio should be in an IRA, and it can be hard possessed silver and gold assets qualify for IRA that you can purchase. You cannot trade them or sell them. Once they're in your IRA, you have to keep them, right, for your retirement. But your IRA, you can spend, what is it, $4,000 to $8,000 on personal income. So you can put into an IRA if you choose to do all gold and silver. Hey, more power to you, I guess. I wouldn't, because if you know Keynesian economics and Austrian theory and cyclical economics, you can make a lot more money off of this while we currently exist in this economic paradigm. And you must master this skill of stocks, bonds, and etc. to reach financial freedom goals, okay? And that's just basic stuff. Both of these assets obviously are tradable and transferable to our children, aren't they, should we pass away. So if you notice, there's a theme here. Nothing is wasted. In the next video, I'm going to start breaking down sections of these at a time and discuss them more in depth. I know that I haven't answered a lot of questions here, but I'm just laying out basics of how I view things. Everything has the theme of going up in value, it is tradable, and it is transferable to our children, so nothing is wasted. I believe a good prepper lifestyle is both a healthy financial lifestyle and a healthier food choice lifestyle. It is a much less stressed lifestyle, and therefore overall better lifestyle with regards to mind, body, and spirit. Sane prepping is sane living. And maybe you could see that from this, maybe you didn't, but we'll explain more on the next videos. Jim out.